Now, when it comes to categories of divorce, there are three types. One is the wordings that are used of divorce. They are either clear or they are ambiguous. The second category is the types of divorce that's issued. Is either talaq ahsan, talaq sunnah, talaq bid'ah. Then you have types of divorce occurred. Is a talaq raji, iba'in, mughallaza. This is getting a bit technical here now. I'll try to simplify as possible. So when it comes to looking at the categories of divorce, right, you can break it down into these three domains. There's the wordings that the husband uses. There's a type of wording that he uses for divorces, or there's a kind of manner in which that he issues the divorce, or there are certain types of divorce that occurred on a woman, right? Now, as for the first one, so we can go to the first one first, so in the same order. As for the wordings of the divorce, sari, clear terms. In other words, he uses such categorical terms that indicate towards divorce and nothing else. For example, he uses the term talaq. Okay. Right. Okay. So he used categorical terms. For example, the word talaq and divorce, because these are the only terms that are used for divorce and nothing else. Therefore, intention does not count. Right. Even though if he said it jokingly, even though if he just meant to say so, not if he just says, Zayd says to his wife, "I've given you talaq," that's a talaq takes place. Right. So that's an example. Sari, which means clear terms. Number two, kinaya, ambiguous terms. Ambiguous term basically means that he uses certain terms that could be used for divorce and not for divorce. So for example, says to her, "Get away from me, go back to your parents' house, get out of here, I don't want to see your face anymore," things like that, etc. Okay, right? Now, these have a possible connotation of separation as well as non-separation, right? This will therefore then boil down on his intention. So if there's an argument going on between husband and wife, and the husband says, go to your parents' house, I don't want to see you anymore. So you're not going to say it's talaq straight away. You will ask him, what was your intention at the time? If your intention was divorce, then it's divorce. If he says my intention was not divorce, then it won't be divorce. However, if, for example, the circumstances were such that the circumstances itself dictates that it was a divorce. So, for example, if there's an argument going on between husband and wife, and the wife says, "Look, I've had enough. Give me a talaq. Get me out of this marriage. I wanna separate from you now permanently." Now she's asking for a divorce, isn't it? And he says, "Okay, then go back to your parents' house for good. Go back to your parents' house. I don't want to see you." Even though if his intention was not to divorce, because he responded to her demand of divorce, now that's classed as a divorce, whether he intended it or not. So when it comes to ambiguous terms, those terms that can imply to divorce as well as not divorce, you look at two things. Number one is intention, and number two, the circumstances. One of these two will then dictate whether divorce took place or not. Okay, as simple as that. Okay, and if the divorce does take place, it results in talaq ba'in. What is talaq ba'in? That's gonna be discussed in the next couple of slides. Okay, now the kind of divorces that are pronounced. Now, the way, the manner in which the husband issues a divorce. So the first one was the wordings that he uses. Now, the first one is known as talaq ahsan. These are all mentioned in the hadith, by the way, and so on. Okay, right? So this just simplify. To pronounce one divorce to the wife in that pure period in which that they had no intimate relationship. This method is the most recommended way of divorcing. This is the best way of divorcing. If a man needs to divorce, he issues one talaq to her in her pure period where there was no intimate relationship, right? This is the most recommended divorce. If a man needs to divorce his wife, this is the best way of divorcing. This is known as ahsan, the best divorce. Give her one talaq, give her one divorce in a pure period, she's not menstruating, and in that pure period where they had no intimate relationship. That's the best way. Then the second is talaq sunnah or ahsan or hasan. This is a level low. Why is it called talaq sunnah? Because the Prophet ﷺ advised a companion to divorce like this. And what is it? To pronounce 3 divorces separately, not all at once, separately. One talaq in one pure period, another talaq in a second pure period, and a third talaq in a third pure period. So issues 3 divorces separately, each one in one pure period. To pronounce 3 divorces separately, whereby issuing one divorce in each of the 3 pure periods to one's wife with whom he has had already an intimate relationship with. That the marriage is already consummated, they've got kids and so on, okay, right? Because if the marriage was not consummated, let's say that the husband, he ended up divorcing her on the wedding day, right? He realized, "Acha, this is not the one. This is not the woman that I wanted to marry. No, I've been blackmailed, for example. Okay, I've been deluded, for example. I've been I've been deceived. Sorry." He ended up marrying another woman, country, for example, and then he issues a one talaq to her there and then. That's talaq ba'in now. That's complete separation. This is obviously that they've got children and so on, and now he wants to divorce her. Okay, of course, if he's already divorced her, then consummated, then that divorce is taken back, and now they consider husband and wife. All right. So I hope this is making sense and clear, okay? If not, then let me know. I'll further clarify. Then you got talaq bid'ah. Talaq bid'ah is the worst form now. So the first one, talaq is the best form. Talaq sunnah is the permissible. Talaq bid'ah is the worst form. You become sinful. What is it? To either pronounce all three divorces in one sitting or in one pure period. Some scholars have included two divorces in this as well, giving two divorces simultaneously, right? But three divorces mainly. To either pronounce all three divorces in one sitting or in one pure period without any intervals of menstruation of a menstrual period, or to issue one divorce while she is menstruating. So giving her one talaq while she's menstruating, or issue three divorces simultaneously, or to issue two divorces simultaneously. The Sharia has discouraged that. And this is the worst form. Okay. However, a man will become very sinful. This is one of the worst and detestable forms of divorce, and in doing so, the divorce will take place, and the man will become very sinful. Yes. So this is the manner in which a man issues the divorce. Yes. So I hope that's clear to everyone. Okay. What if he said, "You are haram for me," and then why don't you go? Does that also warrant divorce? Again, it depends on intention. Yes. It depends on intention, but scholars have said that most likely that the divorce may take place when he says that you are haram upon me. Okay. In fact, that will lead to zihar as well. That can actually lead to no, actually, that's not talaq. That's the permanent divorce. That's zihar. Sorry, that's zihar. That's a separate type of talaq. And what he has to do, he has to pay a kafara. He has to fast for 60 days continuously, with no intimate relationship in between until to take his wife back. So that's zihar basically. Now talaq raji. What does that mean now? This is the kind of divorce that takes place. So what this means is that is the kind of divorces that take place, and this determines whether it's permissible for the man to take his wife back or not. Okay. There are certain instances that despite the divorces that he's been given in the first two categories, in the first two, whether it be sari, kinaya, talaq ahsan, hasan, and bid'ah, when is it permissible for a man to take his wife back and not to take his wife back without her doing a halala? In other words, without marrying a third person, having an intimate relationship with them, and so on. This is what this category is about. So the first is called talaq raj'i, when the husband pronounces one or two divorces, whether it be separately or two divorces, whether it be separately or simultaneously. Even if he says to his, Zayd says to his wife, talaq, talaq, for example, okay? Even though he shouldn't, but if he does, that's a talaq raj'i. That means he has already had intimate relation, which means the marriage is already consummated, right? From the beginning. The ruling would be that whilst the wife is observing a waiting period, if both of them decide to reconcile, then they can reconcile. So basically, talaq raj'i is if a man issues one divorce or two divorces simultaneously, and he has not given any of the divorces in the past, then they have the right to reconcile. They can get together again, okay, during the waiting period. If a waiting period is expired, now they want to get back together, then they just have to renew the nikah. That's all. Then talaq ba'in, irrevocable divorce. This is the kinaya one that I was telling you about, ambiguous terms, that where a man says to his wife, "Get out the house, go away from me," etc., and he makes the intention of divorce, or the circumstance dictate that is a divorce, that results in talaq ba'in. What's the ruling about a talaq ba'in? The ruling is that such terms are referred to as kinaya, ambiguous. After the completion of a waiting period, she is free to marry someone else. However, if they decide to reconcile, then it is necessary to renew their marriage, irrespective whether it's during the waiting period or outside. She doesn't have to go to a third person. She doesn't have to marry a third person. They can reconcile, but they have to renew their nikah. They call it tajdid nikah, regardless if they want to get together during a waiting period or after a waiting period. Yes. That's what it is. So it's not it doesn't end the marriage permanently, in terms of that making haram upon herself, making her haram upon him. They just need to renew the nikah. And then the third is mughallada, absolute irrevocable. This is where they can't get together again now until she does not marry a third person. When is that? When he issues 3 divorces simultaneously. When he issues 3 divorces simultaneously in one sitting or separately, even though once the divorce reaches to 3, that's the upper limit that Islam gives. Now, in this case, they can no longer reconcile uh, during the waiting period or even after waiting period until she marries another man, have intimate relationship, consummates the marriage. He then divorces her or he passes away after consummation, and she's completing waiting period. Then she can come back to her first husband.